Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over the MLB slate on DraftKings and Yahoo for Wednesday, June the 19th. In this video, we're going to look at the main slate. There are 10 games at night tonight. I did cover the 5-game early for DraftKings, so if you want to check that video out, I would really appreciate it. By the time you're watching this, that video will already be uploaded, so make sure you check out the early slate video if you're planning to play the early slate. But in this video, we're going to look at the night slate, 10 games. Talk about DraftKings and Yahoo. We'll start off at pitching, work our way from the top all the way down to all the guys that I'm going to feel like I'm going to be playing today. Not going to go through every single pitcher, but I'll be sure to hit on the guys that I like and that I'm going to have in my player pool. Then we'll look at 3 hitters I'm going to be playing today that I'll have a lot of exposure to. We'll talk about some stacks I'll be going to. Then towards the end of the video, we'll look at some BVP plays as well. Just before we do get started, guys, I would appreciate it if you would drop a like on the video, and if you are new to the channel, make sure you click that subscribe button down below so that way you don't miss out on any of my new videos. So at the top of the pitcher player pool, we have 3 guys over 10K today: Max Scherzer, Lucas Giolito, and Rich Hill. So Max Scherzer, I would say, is in somewhat of a tough spot here against the Phillies at home. Now this is a doubleheader, so that's definitely something to take note of. There is an early game between the Nationals and Phillies, so maybe the Phillies roll out somewhat of an ugly lineup. Their lineup is definitely going to be something I take note of. Like, if their lineup's really bad, that's going to make me have a lot more interest in Scherzer. Assuming they roll out their normal lineup with Segura, Harper, Realmuto, Hoskins, Bruce, Kingery, Franco, if they roll this lineup out, I don't have a ton of interest in Scherzer at 12K. Just don't feel like he's a necessary play on this slate, because I think there are guys in this mid-range and there's some value that I like, and there's hitters I want to pay up for on the main slate, so I don't feel like I have to have Scherzer. It's not the best matchup. The Phillies don't strike out much. They have a really good lineup. Kind of the same could be said for Lucas Giolito. Giolito's been great this year, especially as of late, but tough spot for him against the Cubs. Really good Cubs lineup, not a ton of strikeouts either. Definitely want to take note of some of these Cubs prices, like DraftKings and Yahoo both priced down some of these Cubs hitters. Schwarber, Bryant, Rizzo, Baez are all very cheap. I think Javier Baez on Yahoo is close to minimum salary, so he's definitely a play I want to take note of. I don't mind taking a couple bats against Giolito. I'm not going to be full stacking against him, but if you want to do a mini stack of like a Schwarber, Bryant stack, or Schwarber, Rizzo, Baez, I wouldn't mind doing that because of how cheap the Cubs bats are. Tough spot for Giolito. He could probably go out there and get 7-8 Ks in this matchup, but still, at his $11,300 price tag, I don't know if 7-8 Ks is enough on this slate, especially because there's guys that could give you similar production that are $3,000, $4,000 cheaper. And then Rich Hill, I like his matchup a lot against the Giants, but Rich Hill just doesn't have the upside that Scherzer or Giolito have, so I don't have a ton of interest in paying up for him. I guess my favorite guy to pay up for would probably be someone like Zach Greinke at home against the Rockies. Getting the Rockies outside of Coors Field, definitely some strikeouts in that Rockies lineup. Greinke's not usually a guy I roster because he just doesn't have a ton of upside. I would say he's more of like a consistent pitch deep into games kind of guy than go out there and get 12, 13 strikeouts. But you could see Greinke go 6, 7 innings here, get 5, 6, 7 strikeouts, get you 25 DraftKings points. And if Scherzer and Giolito, if they don't go for like 35, 40, and you get 25 out of Greinke, then that could definitely be good enough at his 9K price tag. So I do like him a lot, but Andrew Heaney's the guy that I want to play over him. Heaney at $8,500 on DraftKings I like a lot here. On Yahoo, he's at $42. I think Heaney makes for a great play. Like, Scherzer's 61, Hill's 53, Giolito and Greinke are both 51. Then there's a big drop-off down to Heaney at 42. So I like going with Heaney as my SP1 here. Against the Blue Jays, plenty of strikeouts in this Blue Jays lineup versus left-handed pitching, especially when you get towards the bottom. There's a lot of Ks at the bottom of the lineup. The main hitters that I'm worried about are Guerrero, Gurriel, and maybe Randall Grichuk, even though Randall Grichuk has not been hitting the ball well lately, and he's been striking out this year. Justin Smoak's not nearly as good right-handed as he is left-handed, so he's not a big concern. You have Eric Sogard leading off, who doesn't strike out much, but it's also lefty-lefty, so tougher spot for Sogard. Then you get a lot of strikeouts with Hernandez, Galvez, Danny Jansen, Brandon Drury. I like this matchup a lot for Heaney. This is a guy that has a ton of K upside. He has a great curveball that he can get a lot of swings and misses on. We've kind of seen it through 4 games this year. Although he had a rough start in his last start against Tampa Bay, Heaney against Seattle, he's faced them twice, 10 strikeouts in both of those matchups, and then against Texas, he got 8 strikeouts. Now he gets to face the Blue Jays, a team that will strike out. Heaney has 25, 30-point upside, I feel like. And at 8,500, if Scherzer goes for like 30, 35, and you get 25, 26, 27 out of Heaney, that could definitely be good enough since he's, $4,000 cheaper almost. So I like Heaney a lot as an SP1. Then for SP2, I think there's a couple of guys that stand out. Daniel Ponce de Leon on DraftKings, I'm not as interested in at 7,800 because we're going to talk about Max Fried. I think Max Fried's the best SP2 value play on DraftKings. But if we go over to Yahoo, Max Fried's at $38. You have Ponce de Leon all the way down there at $35. I do like going with Ponce de Leon as a cheap SP2 on Yahoo at $35. He's in a really favorable spot pitching at home against the Marlins. Really bad Marlins lineup. A Marlins team that we know is just not good. Will strike out as well. They're going to be rolling out a lot of righties. And they do have a very low total, 3.5 implied run total. I guess the only concern here is the weather. There is expected to be some rain in this game, so if we have to get off of Ponce de Leon, we can definitely pivot to Max Fried for just $3 more. But really like Ponce de Leon since he's cheaper than Fried on DraftKings. Fried and Ponce de Leon are definitely my two favorite SP2s. But I want to talk about Fried a lot on DraftKings. So Max Fried at 6,100 just feels like one of the biggest underpriced pitchers on the slate. So I know he hasn't been good lately. He's really struggled. But some of that has had to do with tough matchups. Like he had to face the Phillies, and that's not the easiest matchup. The Pirates are definitely not an easy matchup. They don't strike out much. He did get to face the Marlins on June 9th and pitched pretty well with 17 DraftKings points in that start. Against the Nationals, kind of a tough spot. Against the Giants, he did pretty well. Against the Brewers, he did pretty well. D-backs, he did well. Now he gets to face the Mets, a Mets team that's just not really that good, just not the best lineup. Definitely some strikeouts in this lineup as well. So there are a few guys in this lineup I'm very concerned with, especially Peter Alonso batting second, maybe Wilson Ramos, but you got three lefties in the projected lineup, and then once you get past the lefties, there's a lot of strikeouts at the bottom of the lineup with Frazier, Rosario, Gomez, and the pitcher Steven Matz. Really like Max Fried a lot here. He's a heavy favorite, relatively heavy favorite at minus 150. Pretty low total for the Mets, just a 4.3 implied run total. Max Fried's price, though, on DraftKings is what makes me have a lot of interest in him. 6,100 is just way too cheap for a guy that has 20, 25 point upside. I think we could see Fried go for that here in this matchup with the Mets. Would not be surprised at all if he goes 6-7 innings with 5 or 6 strikeouts, picks up a win, and gets you 25 DraftKings points at 6,100. So he's my favorite value SP2 on DraftKings. You just look at the guys priced around him. I don't think the guys priced around him have nearly as much upside as he does. Drew Pomeranz against the Dodgers, kind of a no for me. Adam Plutko in Texas against the Rangers, no thanks. Joe Palumbo against the Indians, no thanks. Aaron Sanchez against the Angels, don't want to go there. Steven Matz against the Braves is 800 more, and I don't want to play Steven Matz against the Braves. So I think Max Fried just gives you so much upside at his cheap price on DraftKings. So that's where I'm looking to for pitcher. Some of the other guys we could look at that I didn't talk about, definitely want to mention Trevor Williams and Jordan Zimmerman. More so Trevor Williams. I do like Trevor Williams' spot a lot here at home against the Tigers. He is coming off the IL. He hasn't pitched in a major league game in over a month. So there's a pretty good chance he's limited somewhat. It looks like he tossed 71 pitches in his last AAA outing. So maybe he goes about 75, 80 pitches. Could definitely be a guy you look to at 7,300. But I expect a lot of my SP2 ownership is going to go to Max Fried. He's just a guy that I think is way underpriced here. But now let's talk about some hitters that I like. We'll start off at third base. I really like the Indians today versus Joe Palumbo. I think Jose Ramirez is a really good play on both sides. He's only 3,800 on DraftKings, and on Yahoo he's at $12. He really stands out here, and so does this Indians team versus Palumbo. So right now we don't have a total on this game, but I imagine it's going to be pretty high on both sides. Wouldn't be surprised at all if we see both teams with a 5.5 implied run total or even higher. This Indians lineup looks really good here versus Palumbo. Palumbo's made one start this year and did kind of get roughed up by Oakland in his first start. He pitched against them at home and gave up 6 hits, 4 runs, and a home run through 4 innings. Only got 4 strikeouts. He's not really that good of a pitcher. He's not a guy that's going to go out there and get strikeouts. Some of these guys on the Indians have a lot of appeal today. Francisco Lindor, Carlos Santana I really like. Mercado's a little bit more expensive than I would like to pay. $5K feels like a lot to pay for him, but Lindor and Santana I really like. Jose Ramirez, obviously. Even the lefties are dirt cheap, and I think they are in play. If Kipnis bats cleanup again at 3,200, he's a pretty decent value, even though it's lefty-lefty. Same could be said for Jake Bauers, even though it's lefty-lefty. He's dirt cheap at 3,700. But the top of the lineup, Lindor, Santana, Ramirez, those are the guys I really like. Jose Ramirez, even though he's had a rough year this year, still been making some hard contact, is a guy that does hit righty or lefties well. He's a switch hitter, so he's going to have the platoon advantage, whether it's a lefty or a righty on the mound. Ramirez just has so much upside, still has power, still has a ton of speed as well. If he gets on base, he will steal bases. 16 stolen bases this year. Love Jose Ramirez, just think he gives you so much upside at this price tag. Plus, you take the fact that they're playing in Texas, the great hitters park, very good hitting weather as well. Have a lot of appeal in this Indians team. And I also mentioned Francisco Lindor. He's definitely one of my favorite spend-up options on this slate. He's $5,500 on DraftKings, and on Yahoo he's at $22. So pretty much the same thing can be said for Lindor as it did for Ramirez. Just a guy with a ton of power, switch hitter, has power from both sides of the plate, has a lot of speed as well. Not as much speed as Ramirez. He's not running as much as Ramirez is, just 9 stolen bases on the year for Lindor. But still, if he does get on base, he will steal bases. And like I said, just a ton of power, just a great hitter, great hitter's park, great hitting weather, really bad pitcher he's facing. Love this Indians team and love Ramirez and Lindor. They are definitely going to be the top 2 priorities for me. And then I'm going to have like some Carlos Santana. Probably have a little bit of Mercado, but not much. Jason Kipnis, if he bats cleanup again, even though it's lefty-lefty, I think he's a top value at second base. Really like the top part of the Indians lineup today. And then another team I want to talk about is the Braves. I think the Braves are in a pretty good spot here, facing off against Steven Matz. They have a 5.3 implied run total, and they have a lot of righties that hit lefties well, specifically the top 4 or 5 guys like Acuna, Swanson, Josh Donaldson, Austin Riley. I really like today. And then the lefties are not easy outs either. Freddie Freeman can still hit lefties very well. Nick Markakis as well can hit lefties well and does not strike out at all. So the Braves just have a ton of appeal today. I love Ronald Acuna in the outfield here against Steven Matz. He's $5,500 on DraftKings, and on Yahoo he's pretty expensive as well. He's $24, but given this matchup with Steven Matz, I think he's worth the price tag. So Acuna just has a ton of power versus lefties. This is a guy that's homered 17 times on the year, can hit lefties and righties well. Also has speed, and something Steven Matz does struggle with is holding runners. So if Acuna gets on base, he will steal bases, 9 stolen bases on the year. I expect him to be running if he gets on base against Matz. And Matz has given up a lot of hard contact versus righties, so Acuna definitely has the chance to take Matz deep here as well. Really like him here and love the Braves stack as well today. That's one of the reasons I'm not going to be paying up at pitcher much, because the teams I want to stack, the Braves, really expensive. The Indians have some expensive bats. Even like the Angels have some expensive bats. So don't see myself going to many of the expensive pitchers. That's kind of why I like paying down at pitcher today. But these are my 5 plays for DraftKings and for Yahoo today, guys. Let's go ahead and talk about some stacks I like, then we'll look at some BVP before we end the video. So my favorite stack is definitely going to be the Indians here versus Joe Palumbo. Just love this Indians team, love the pricing on some of these hitters. Even the top guys are expensive, but I still want to pay their prices because I just think the matchup's that good. So going to be all over the Indians, going to be all over the Braves versus Steven Matz. Also really like the Angels versus Aaron Sanchez. Aaron Sanchez has just really struggled this year. Trout, Ohtani look like great plays. Justin Upton back in the lineup, only $4,100. Feels like a guy that's way underpriced. So I love going to the Angels as well. On the other side of that Indians game, you can definitely take some Rangers bats, but they're definitely going to be sort of a secondary stack, whereas my primary stacks I expect to be the Braves, Angels, and Indians. Maybe I'll have a little bit of Red Sox versus Kyle Gibson. I know Gibson's a pretty decent pitcher. He's been really good this year, but the Red Sox still have a ton of talented hitters, especially the top 4 or 5 guys, Mookie, JD, Devers, Bogarts, Benintendi. I'll definitely have some mini stacks of the Red Sox. Don't know if I'll be full stacking them, but I think that's it for stacks today, guys. Let's go ahead and talk about some BVP now before we end the video. So just a couple BVP plays that really stand out. Melky Cabrera gone 7 for 24 with 2 home runs off of Jordan Zimmerman. Corey Dickerson 8 for 15 with a home run off of Jordan Zimmerman. Jose Abreu 6 for 15 with a home run off of John Lester. JD and Mookie have both hit Kyle Gibson well. JD's gone 10 for 31 with 2 home runs, and Mookie's gone 6 for 16 with 3 home runs off Kyle Gibson. And then lastly, a couple of these Rockies have hit Zach Greinke well. Probably a lot of that has to do with Coors Field, but Trevor Story's gone 11 for 38 with 5 home runs off Greinke, and Mark Reynolds 7 for 36 with 4 home runs. So those are just a couple BVP plays that I got for today, guys. I think that is it for this video. Hopefully you did enjoy this video, and hopefully it did help you. Like I said at the beginning, if you're planning to play the 5-game early slate, I did make a video for that. I would appreciate it if you would check that video out. It would mean a lot. Pretty much went over the early slate, did what I did in this video, talked about pitching, hitters I like, stacks I like, covered as much as I could. But yeah, guys, like I said, hope you enjoyed. Make sure you drop a like if you did, subscribe if you are new. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below, or you can hit me up on Twitter. I think that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed. See you in the next one. Good luck tonight. Peace.